Her hands shook as she typed, her phone screen glowing against the dim light of her tiny apartment. Emily's world had already been weighed down with unpaid bills, late shifts at the diner, and a loneliness that never seemed to end. But tonight it was heavier. Her younger sister had just given birth alone, frightened, and without a partner by her side. The baby, a fragile little boy, was now fighting for life in the hospital, and Emily was the only one standing guard. She meant to text her best friend, asking for advice and comfort, but in her exhaustion, she sent the message to the wrong number. The words tumbled across the screen. "I don't know what to do. The baby isn't breathing right. The doctors said it's critical. My sister can't even afford treatment. Please, God, help me." She pressed send without realizing that the message didn't land where she thought it did. It went to a man who had never once been part of her world, Nathan Cole, a CEO sitting miles away in his sleek office, where the city's skyline glittered like diamonds outside his window. Nathan had just ended another 12-hour day. Contracts, board meetings, and endless reports had drained him, yet when his phone buzzed with that message, he froze. It wasn't a typical business text. It wasn't meant for him. He could have ignored it. He could have deleted it, but something about the raw desperation in those words pierced through his carefully built walls. He reread it again and again. Then, instead of brushing it aside, he replied, "Who is this? Are you safe? Where is the baby?" Emily saw the reply and felt her heart plummet. Realizing her mistake, her face burned with embarrassment. "I'm sorry, wrong number." She typed back quickly. She wanted to delete it, to pretend it never happened, but her phone buzzed again. Wrong number or not, someone's in trouble. "Tell me which hospital." Emily didn't answer. Who was this stranger? She had no reason to trust him. Yet 2 hours later, just when her sister drifted into a restless sleep, the hospital's front desk called Emily's name. She rushed forward, thinking there must be news about the baby. Instead, they handed her a folder. "The financial arrangements for the infant's care have been taken care of. A Mr. Nathan Cole has covered everything." Emily's knees nearly buckled. She didn't know who this man was, but she knew one thing. He was the only reason her nephew had a chance at surviving tonight. The hours dragged by with the rhythm of heart monitors and quiet prayers. Then, near dawn, Emily's phone rang. The number was unfamiliar, but she answered anyway. A calm, steady voice spoke. "Miss Emily, this is Nathan. I just wanted to make sure everything is all right. How's the baby?" Tears blurred her eyes. No one in her own family had called, not even the baby's father. And yet this stranger, a CEO she had never met, was the one staying awake, waiting, caring. "The doctors say he's stable now," Emily whispered. If you hadn't stepped in, I don't know what would have happened." Nathan paused. For years, his wealth had built empires, bought companies, and silenced competitors. But tonight was the first time he felt it had actually saved a life. He came to visit the hospital the next day. Emily expected a man who carried himself with arrogance, but instead, Nathan walked in quietly, without bodyguards, without fanfare. He looked at the tiny baby in the incubator, at the fragile rise and fall of his chest, and his eyes softened in a way Emily never thought possible. She whispered, "Why would you do this for us? You don't even know me." Nathan smiled faintly. "Because once, a stranger saved me too, and I never forgot." The baby's hand, impossibly small, twitched as though reaching out. Nathan stood there longer than expected, longer than he had planned, his heart tethered to the child and to the young woman whose accidental text had crossed his path. Days turned into weeks, and as the baby grew stronger, so did the bond between Emily and Nathan. He visited often, not as a CEO, not as a man with wealth and power, but simply as someone who cared. Each time, Emily's heart shifted a little, surprised at how kindness could grow roots in places where despair had lived. One evening, as Emily held her nephew close, Nathan stood beside her and said softly, "Do you realize your mistake may have saved him? That wrong text was the right moment." Emily blinked away tears, holding the baby tighter, realizing he was more than just her nephew. He was proof that kindness from a stranger could turn the darkest night into the beginning of something extraordinary. And in that hospital room where fear had once lived, something else took its place. Hope, connection, and the unshakable belief that one act of compassion could change more than just a life. It could change everything. Emily looked down at her nephew, his little chest rising and falling with steady breaths. and felt something she hadn't in weeks. Peace. The fear that had gripped her when she first saw him struggling in that incubator was slowly being replaced by relief. She lifted her eyes toward Nathan, who stood there not as some untouchable CEO, but as a man whose presence had become almost like family. Over the following months, Nathan's visits didn't stop. He started bringing coffee for Emily during her long hospital shifts, little toys for the baby, and even books for Emily's sister to read when she had the strength. It wasn't about money anymore. It was about showing up, about being present. Emily's sister, still weak but recovering, looked at Nathan one afternoon and teased, "You keep this up, and I might start calling you Uncle Nathan." Nathan chuckled, but when his eyes met Emily's, the warmth behind them was undeniable. He wasn't just helping because of a random text anymore. Somewhere along the way, he had become a part of their lives. When the day finally came for the baby to leave the hospital, Emily felt a rush of gratitude so strong it almost overwhelmed her. She stood outside under the sunshine, the baby wrapped safely in her arms, and turned to Nathan. "We couldn't have done this without you. You've been more than a blessing. You've been a miracle." Nathan smiled, his gaze softening as he looked at the child and then at Emily. "Sometimes the best things in life aren't planned, they just happen, like a wrong text leading me here." Emily laughed through her tears, hugging the baby close. And for the first time in years, she believed that her small, fragile family had a future, not one of endless struggle, but one filled with possibility. As Nathan gently touched the baby's tiny hand, the child's fingers curled around his, as if choosing him too. In that quiet moment, all of them understood. This wasn't just an act of charity anymore. It was the beginning of a new story, one where love and kindness had woven lives together in ways no one could have imagined. The baby cooed softly. Emily leaned into Nathan's side without hesitation, and the world felt lighter. What started as a desperate mistake had become the sweetest chance, one that promised joy, healing, and a future brighter than Emily ever dared to dream.